Nitai Gaur Pramanande Hari Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 11, all the transcendental qualities of Vritasura. Text number 1 through 4. 1, 2, and 3 do not have purports. So I'll begin by reading the chapter summary, then I'll go through the Sanskrit, the word for text 4, and then the text and the purport. So the chapter summary. This chapter describes Vritasura's great qualities. When the prominent commanders of the demons fled, not hearing Vritasura's advice, Vritasura condemned all of them as cowards. Speaking very bravely, he stood alone to face the demigods. When the demigods saw Vritasura's attitude, they are so afraid they practically fainted, and Vritasura began trampling them down. Unable to tolerate this, Indra, the king of the demigods, threw his club at Vritasura. But Vritasura was such a great hero that he easily caught the club with his left hand and used it to beat Indra's elephant. Struck by the blows of Vritasura, the elephant was pushed back 14 yards and fell, with Indra on its back. King Indra had first accepted Vishvarup as his priest, and thereafter killed him. Reminding Indra of his heinous activities, Vritasura said, "If one is a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, and depends on Lord Vishnu in every respect, then victory, opulence, and peace of mind are all inevitably available. Such a person has nothing for which to aspire in the three worlds. The Supreme Lord is so kind that he especially favors such a devotee by not giving him opulence that will hamper his devotional service. Therefore, I wish to give up everything for the service of the Lord. I should always chant the glories of the Lord and engage in his service. Let me become unattached to my worldly family and make friendships with the devotees of the Lord. I do not desire to be promoted to the higher planetary systems, even to Dhruvaloka or Brahmaloka, nor do I desire an unconquerable position within this material world. I have no need for such things." Sri Shuku Vacha Taevam Sham Sato Dharmam Vacha Patir Achetasa Naiva Grihanta Sambranta Palayana Para Nirpa Vishiryamanam Pritanam Asurim Asur Krishaba Palanukules Tridashai Kalyamanam Anatavat Drishva Tavapayata Sankruda Indra Shatur Amarshita Tanniva Yojasarajan Mirbartsyedam Uvachaha Kimvaud Chariteramatur Gavabi Prishato Hatai Nahibita Vadashvagyo Nasvagaya Shuram Maninam. So word for text number 4. Kim, what is the benefit? Va, for you. Ucharitai, for those like the stool. Matu, of the mother. Davadbi, running away. Prishtata, from the back. Atai, killed. Na, not. He, certainly. Vita, the killing of a person who is afraid. Shagaya, glorious. Na, nor. Swaragya, leading to the heavenly planets. Sura Maninam, of persons who consider themselves heroes. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, O King, Vritasura, the commander-in-chief of the demigods, advised his lieutenants in the principles of religion, but the cowardly demoniac commanders, intent upon fleeing the battlefield, were so disturbed by fear that they could not accept his words. O King Parikshit, the demigods, taking advantage of a favorable opportunity presented by time, attacked the army of the demons from the rear and began driving away the demoniac soldiers, scattering them here and there as if their army had no leader. Seeing the pitiable condition of his soldiers, Vritasura, the best of the Asuras, who is called Indrashatru, the enemy of Indra, was very much aggrieved. Unable to tolerate such reverses, he stopped and forcibly rebuked the demigods, speaking the following words in an angry mood. O demigods, these demoniac soldiers have taken birth uselessly. Indeed, they have come from the bodies of their mothers exactly like stool. What is the benefit of killing such enemies from behind, while they are running in fear? One who considers himself a hero should not kill an enemy who is afraid of losing his life. Such killing is never glorious, nor can it promote one to the heavenly planets. Purport. Vritasura rebuked both the demigods and the demoniac soldiers, because the demons were running in fear of their lives, and the demigods were killing them from behind. The actions of both were abominable. When a fight takes place, the opposing parties must be prepared to fight like heroes. A hero never runs from the field of battle. He always fights face to face, determined to gain victory or lay down his life in the fight. That is heroic. Killing an enemy from behind is also inglorious. When an enemy turns his back and runs in fear of his life, he should not be killed. This is the etiquette of military science. Vritasura insulted the demoniac soldiers by comparing them to the stool of their mothers. Both stool and a cowardly son come from the abdomen of the mother, and Vritasura said there is no difference between them. A similar comparison was given by Tulsidas, who commented that a son and urine both come from the same channel. In other words, semen and urine both come from the genitals, but semen produces a child, whereas urine produces nothing. Therefore, if a child is neither a hero nor a devotee, he is not a son but urine. Similarly, Chanakya Pandit also says, Korita putrena jatena yona vidvan na dharmika anena chakrusha kim va chakshupi daiva kevalam. What is the use of a son who is neither glorious nor devoted to the Lord? Such a son is like a blind eye, which simply gives pain but cannot help one see. Om Egena Jamandasya Ginanjana Shalakaya Chakshumatamana Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sarigaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are starting a new chapter which, as Prabhupada alludes to in the title, will be talking about the uh, transcendental qualities of Vritasura, the great qualities that Vritasura, who was leading the demon forces in one of the battles or the campaigns between the demigods and the demons. And as we just read in the translations, the demoniac forces, including their commanders, the various lieutenants who were acting under the command of Ratasura, had uh, become afraid and were fleeing from the field of battle. And the demigods, as they saw the uh, demons fleeing, took advantage of this situation and attacked the demons from behind, despite the fact that they were fleeing. And both the uh, demons and the demigods are condemned for their actions in this regard. The demons for fleeing, for their cowardice, and the demigods for not acting honorably, because it's considered dishonorable to attack an enemy that is fleeing or in fear of his life. So everything in Vedic culture, in Vedic society, was done in a very cultured way. Even fighting, because as long as one is in the material world, there will always be some sort of conflict. We are in the material world because we wish to be controllers and enjoyers. But our controlling and enjoying propensities come up against others who also have the same propensities to control and enjoy. And because of uh, both external and internal factors, finite resources, finite amounts of land, there's not necessarily enough to satisfy the ruling propensity of certain people. And also internally, our pride, envy, etc., all the internal enemies, make it so that conflict arises. Sometimes uh, this conflict is uh, just harsh words at each other, thrown at each other, and other times it leads to physical violence, and at other times it leads to all-out war, even between nations. And of course, one can lead to the other. There's this doctrine, it's still in many places, in the law, in the United States at least, I think Australia as well, of fighting words. In the United States, especially, we uh, very much value freedom of speech, the First Amendment, but even the Supreme Court has ruled that uh, fighting words, words meant to challenge somebody to a fight, are not covered under freedom of speech. And there's one state, Georgia, where actually one can use fighting words as a defense if one is charged with assault. Because with the understanding that uh, this animosity grows and grows, and that any uh, reasonable, materially conditioned person would have such a reaction upon hearing certain types of words that one will uh, be overcome and strike the other person. And then, of course, this expands more and more into basically all of materialistic society in all of the various types of warfare and politics. And one can even see in the normal course of activities, there's workplace politics, position, uh, conflicts, trying to vie for promotions or grants or whatever the status symbols are in one's particular profession. And this leads even on up to politics and ultimately to geopolitics. Oh, this land belongs to us. No, this land belongs to us. And then there is fighting. So this fighting propensity is always there. But according to Vedic culture, it should be done in the right way. There should be laws of warfare. So there are multiple laws that mm, one can offer, uh, that basically offer one recourse, that one can invoke for one's various actions. Of course, there is always the law of necessity. If something is necessary for one's continued existence or some other high goal, it is generally accepted that there is some leeway, or even if not legally speaking, there's some leeway. It is at least understandable. If somebody is starving, for example, and steals some bread, whether or not the law recognizes that as justified, most people will think that is at least understandable. Okay, this person is starving. In order to feed himself, he had to steal. Of course, if one is invoking this law, it should be understood that what one is vying for, what one is taking with it, is actually necessary. According to the records, historical records, at the beginning of World War II, just before, the a lot of the push, a lot of the conquering, the aggression from Germany was on plea of that they required living room. I forget the German term that was used, but basically that they required more space to live, uh, which many people would agree, looking at history, was not actually under the law of necessity, uh, but was just a convenient excuse. And then, of course, above such laws, in a certain sense, is kind of just the laws of society. Every government has not just a right, but a duty to see that there are laws in place in order that the peaceable execution of the various uh, goals of human life are able to be prosecuted or able to be attained or at least pursued in a uh, peaceable way. Basically, in order to make the conditions that one may pursue the goals of human life uh, without undue difficulty. The goals of human life are, of course, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. And there are various views, of course, on how exactly the government should go about doing that. One really wants to get into it. There's, a few thousand years of literature on what constitutes proper government. Uh, but the main idea is that the government should make and enforce laws that sometimes restrict the activity of the citizens so that they may actually have a chance at progressive human life. Many times you hear the arguments from various groups, this kind of more libertarian idea that the government should have no say uh, on anything whatsoever unless it affects directly uh, two or more people, that some interaction between people. These sort of people say, okay, you can't uh, the government should say that you can't punch somebody in the face, but anything that I wish to do on my own or to my own body should be, or with other consenting people, should be allowed, and that they have no right to, for example, tell me that I cannot take uh, whatever intoxicants that I uh, wish to take. But actually, because the government, the administrators, have a duty to uh, assist the populace in progressive human life, they actually have a duty to sometimes protect people without knowledge from their own conditioned states. Now, for example, some localities have either in law or just in fact uh, legalized all sorts of intoxicants. with results that are expected. One can just even see online uh, that centers, one looks up uh, certain locations that are centers of the opioid crisis. One can see that such a state is not progressive to human life. But even above, I should say, and even above the laws of the state, there are the laws of Dharma, which Vritasura is making reference to here. Uh, even in the laws of warfare, that there are actions that should not be taken because they are dishonorable. There are ideas uh, like this, even in secular society today, with the ideas, for example, of war crimes, that there are certain activities that even during a state of war, one should, for example, not target civilians, that one should have only military targets. That, for example, if one has taken uh, enemy soldiers as prisoners, what we refer to as prisoners of war, uh, they should not be tortured or killed or mistreated. Uh, and as on the dharmic level, that one should not kill an enemy that poses no threats to oneself. If one is fleeing or injured, uh, it is not considered honorable to kill them. As far as I'm aware, there's no such law um, in the international order. Although on occasion, one does see this sentiment uh, reflected in certain activities. Even in, I already referenced World War II, there's this incident during World War II known as the Ross Steigler incident, or no, the Brown Steigler incident, sorry, uh, where this German fighter pilot saw a British bomber, a British or American, some Allied bomber, and he was about to shoot it down, but he saw that it was damaged beyond, so much that it was no threat anymore. This bomber was making a beeline for the English Channel in order to flee, and this fighter pilot decided, there's no honor in shooting down this mm, basically injured opponent, that this bomber that was so damaged that couldn't be used anymore. So he flew as close as possible to the injured craft so that the anti-aircraft guns would not shoot it down until they reached the channel, and then the pilot survived to tell the tale. So above even the uh, kind of laws of necessity or uh, mm, kind of the legal or the laws of the state is the laws of dharma, the laws of right action according to uh, just general human behavior and also one's specific place in society. But even greater than the laws of Dharma, is devotional service. Devotional service is beyond the material energy. The laws of Dharma, even though they come from the Lord through his servants, such as Manu, they are on the material platform. And they make distinctions. There are certain activities for men and women, certain activities for brahmanas, kshatriyas, vaishyas, shudras, for brahmacharis, grihastas, vanaprasts, sannyas. All of these divisions are on the material platform, uh, while devotional service is not, it is beyond. It is actually an offense to think that specifically the chanting of the holy name, but any form of devotional service is an auspicious ritualist activity, an auspicious act of dharma, uh, which is told or which is given in the Vedic literatures as auspicious fruitive activity. And we see many times throughout the various Vedic literatures, especially in Mahabharata, that uh, for devotional service, one are the heroes of the story must perform acts which are against Dharma. Arjuna, of course, is kind of the classic example where he was induced by Lord Krishna to fight against superiors in the Battle of Kurukshetra. Another example that is brought up often is that of Yudhisthira, who was induced to lie to Dronacharya, I believe, about the death of his son, so that Dronacharya would be so shocked that he would drop his weapons and then he could be killed, which is also against Dharma, that one should not kill an opponent that one is unequally matched with, as far as weapons and things like that. And there's so many other examples. Uh, Arjuna killed a distracted and unarmed Karna. Bhima struck Duryodhana below the belt, on the lower body. Uh, but all of these were done despite being against Dharma for a Kshatriya to please Krishna. And this points out, and is pointed out all throughout Bhagavatam, that devotional service is beyond Dharma. Not that we, I guess I should clarify or make clear that it's not that we ignore Dharma. Part of our mission as servants of Srila Prabhupada is to establish Ashram Dharma. So we don't necessarily ignore these things, but we also should not become too mental, so to speak, if we cannot follow every aspect of Dharma perfectly. There are so many material impediments to it, just by the general social and economic, monetary situation and our own conditioning that we have brought in to devotional service. into our practice of everything from this life and our previous lives. Uh, so while we don't ignore these things, we should be assured that if we are practicing devotional service, as Krishna guarantees in Bhagavad Gita, that if we just serve him, he will take away all sinful reactions that might accrue by serving him or by accident or by circumstance, etc. So we should keep our consciousness on the highest law, which is the law of devotional service. And by doing so, we will actually become heroes. One type of hero in that is being referenced uh, by Vritasura and in the purports by Prabhupada is the hero that fights on the fields of battle and either uh, conquers the enemy or is killed by the enemy. But the other type of hero is one who conquers his own mind and senses by the process of devotional service, which is available to all of us by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, who have given us a very easy uh, way of doing so in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which we should take full advantage of. So I will end here. We have about 15 minutes, assuming everything is on time, for comments, questions, additions, subtractions.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Can you speak about how growing food has a will have a broader growing food within a strong establishment will have a broader impact on the world than just feeding a few brethren?
Yes. So Dasi Prem Prabhu has asked for me to speak about the impact of growing food beyond just feeding a few residents. The mm, foundation of kind of uh, everything is, in a certain sense, how to feed ourselves. Before we think about, Dharma or uh, all of these high principles, the kind of most pressing concern is, are we fed? And this applies, of course, not just to devotees, but to the world in general, to everybody, even to uh, the other forms of life. But the food supply in the world in general, or the way that people actually get food in modern society, uh, is very unnatural, really. We ship it halfway across the world and uh, you know put all sorts of chemicals on it, and many cases, through genetic engineering, the crop has, uh, I would actually say, become contaminated. Dhruva was telling me this story before about how in India, uh, some one of these big companies like Monsanto or something, or similar company, sold their grain to on credit to Indian farmers, and uh, they said, we don't have, yes, okay, we understand you don't have the money to pay us now, but you can pay us back later, next year. Uh, and you know, they gave them their genetically engineered grain and the pesticides that go with it. But what the farmers didn't know is that the pesticides will seep into the land and will kill everything except the genetically engineered grains, the genetically engineered seeds that were made by this company. So they cannot grow anything else. So the next year, these farmers tried to grow uh, another sort of grain, from somebody else or just, naturally occurring produce, and everything was dying. So they went back to the company and it's like, oh, okay, you can just borrow from us on credits again. And, these farmers were basically now more or less enslaved to these companies. And, just in so many ways, the food supply is being, uh, I would use the word contaminated. And even, if one is somehow or other able to get uh, pure food, the way that it was produced has such an impact that uh, it was produced in some uh, large farm. There's a monoculture uh, agriculture or monograin agriculture, monoproduce agriculture uh, is a whole other topic. But then it was transported here, there, uh, with so many resources, and the ecological impact of all of it is so intense, as opposed to just growing food yourself, going out to the fields or the garden and picking something, and then within a few minutes, uh, being able to cook that uh, produce for Radha Damodar, or even just for oneself if one isn't a devotee. And actually, it is precisely uh, the salience or the uh, kind of in your face nature of food that will make people in general recognize. Because actual self-sufficiency is a very big project, but uh, one of the more esoteric things that uh, some people like myself get caught up in is I'm like, oh, if the internet goes down, how do we tell time and make calendars and things like that? It's in many ways very kind of esoteric, and a lot of people can't really wrap their head around it. But everybody can wrap their head around food. And it will actually be uh, attract people to the Krishna conscious Varnashram society that we are building. Oh, these people are actually living a simple life in nature where they don't have to rely on, politicians or businessmen or supermarkets or anything like that. That they are just growing their own food within their own community and taking care of their own necessities of life. Even if people are not interested in Krishna, they will be attracted just by the fact that we can uh, feed ourselves. And then when they are attracted there, then we say, okay, you wish to come and take part of our community. Being part of this community, we have Krishna at the center. And then they will learn about Krishna. And then their road back to Godhead has started. And even if those that might not have so much interest in the spiritual aspect, just materially, it is a better and more peaceful way to live. And all of it rests on the foundation of food, of how to take care of our own material necessities. How do we keep body and soul together? Prabhupada is reported to have once said that the Hare Krishna movement will go down in history as having saved humanity at its darkest hour. So we should take very seriously this task that we have been given by Srila Prabhupada of actually making a society that exemplifies simple living, high thinking in every respect, and that lives in harmony with nature and the one who is the proprietor of nature, that is Damodar. Uh, so hopefully I have satisfied the exalted Dasya Prem Prabhu in speaking about food and its impact. I don't know if there are any other questions or comments on anything.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your class and your discussion of the impact of food and our efforts to try to uh, develop self-sufficiency at Gita Nagari. There are actually, it's a very broad subject. There's much to understand about food. Srila Prabhupada explained to us, for example, that when a person is hungry, they become vulnerable to any sort of
Hmm.
ideology or philosophy that will enable them to feed themselves. And so communists, for example, have taken advantage of this principle in order to uh, spread and establish the idea of communism. And conversely, if an individual can feed himself, he becomes immunized against all kinds of other ideas. So various political influences, philosophical and ideological influences will not affect him. He is able to think freely and independently.
Hmm.
And this Srila Prabhupada felt is important, particularly for devotees who want to cultivate an understanding of Krishna consciousness. It's important that they be free of uh, these other extraneous influences. And so to be able to feed yourself becomes very fundamental, not just physically, because you have to have nourishment to survive, but even for the purpose of being able to think freely, it's important that you are not beholden to others who are possessed of ideologies or a mentality that is um, uh, inimical or adverse to the cultivation of Krishna consciousness. There are certain types of individuals with whom we would not want to associate because that association is poisonous to us. Um, but one might be obliged to take that association if if his life depended upon it. But when you're able to feed yourself, you can immunize yourself against all kinds of influences on every level, politically and um, ideologically and intellectually, and on and on. It has profound and far-reaching effects. The Srila Prabhupada spoke about that. Um, he mentioned it often in the context of the political strife in West Bengal, where you had actual communists trying to seize control, and um, um, different political parties, um, and masses of people who were falling sway to the influences of those who had the ability um, to to feed people who were generally hungry. And Srila Prabhupada's solution for this was that we should be the ones that are feeding them. That at least within our immediate jurisdiction, Srila Prabhupada defined this as a 10-mile radius. So that at least everyone within a 10-mile radius should, no one should go hungry. We should be able to feed them. So the Mayapur temple, at least at that time, we did a significant amount of farming on the land that we had, and also got involved in the management and distribution of food produced in the immediate vicinity by others. Um, by distributing prasad, we were able to um, exert tremendous influence over the local people, which in turn uh, um, exerted tremendous force on the local political parties, and it made it possible for us to acquire more land and to develop the project in a setting which was actually inimical towards us initially. Um, uh, we were able to sway the minds of masses of people, and even uh, the government would have to bow to the will of the people. So it's a powerful weapon. It can be weaponized, but having the ability to produce food to distribute prasad is very powerful, a powerful tool in our arsenal to assist us in our efforts to propagate Krishna consciousness. So it's so powerful, so important, um, and so fundamental that this was something that Srila Prabhupada pressed us very heavily to develop. But, at least you have to be able to feed yourself. Other things, in time or whatever is practical, but you have to at least be able to feed yourself. That he felt was very fundamental. Um, there was a time at Gita Nagari when we actually had come to the point of being able to feed ourselves. And Srila Prabhupada remarked at that time when he came to visit and he saw what we were doing, he said that at Gita Nagari they had solved the economic problem. And it was partly on the basis of this that he resolved to return to Gita Nagari, saying that he would teach us how to live off the land, how to depend upon Krishna by depending upon the land and the cows. He thought that Gita Nagari was an ideal place to. Jai Shri Shri Radha Damodar. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Paul, thank you, Prabhu. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I'll switch the comment. It's on. It's